The history of Ireland is traced upon the cross. In this land of saints and scholars, religion held immense power over minds, lives, and indeed deaths. Divided as they were, the island's squabbling churches were united by their stance on public morals.
You will legislate perversion and immorality.
But in recent years, most notably in the Republic, such attitudes have shifted. Scandals have shaken public faith in the Catholic Church. Secularism is on the march. The Republic's gay marriage referendum in 2015 left Northern Ireland nearly alone in Western Europe as one of the few places where same-sex marriage was still forbidden by law. Take the issue of abortion, however, and Ireland's isolation is even starker. Strict laws north and south of the border mean the island ranks alongside Andorra, Malta and San Marino as the most restrictive places in Europe. A forthcoming referendum in the Republic could compound Northern Ireland's isolation. With its religious quarrels and fractious political landscape, Northern Ireland can seem, to large swathes of British opinion, a place frozen in time. And nowhere is the country's social conservatism more in evidence than here in Ballymena, the buckle of Northern Ireland's Bible Belt. If you were voting, would you think it's important that the politicians represented religious values?
Yes, certainly. That's why I do support DUP, because they do have a lot of religious values on same-sex marriage and stuff where, you know, where's that all coming from?
I have nothing against gay people in any way, but I don't think it's right for them to be married. Definitely not. Not the way I was brought up.
The DUP is not the only party to hold these views. The Ulster Unionist Party, for one, is split on such issues. But the DUP's unique brand of fundamentalism finds fertile ground here.
The religion of the DUP informs the party's attitude to such questions as same-sex marriage and abortion. The fact is that on a scale of 0 to 10, when we asked, how much should faith and church condition the outlook of the DUP, members scale that at almost 7 out of 10. It's difficult to imagine any other party across the United Kingdom having such an outlook, wanting faith and church to condition the outlook of their party.
The power to legislate on social issues rests with Northern Ireland's devolved government, when it actually sits. The Assembly here at Stormont has declined to endorse more liberal legislation on both gay marriage and abortion. In 2015, a vote to legalise gay marriage was actually passed by a majority of 1, but the DUP were able to use a controversial veto power, known as the Petition of Concern, to block the legislation. This move, in defiance of both majority public opinion and the majority of Assembly members, provoked outrage. The 2017 Northern Ireland General Election Survey indicated that 54% of people supported same-sex marriage. Only 23% opposed it. Other polls have put support higher still. But only 50% of Unionists were in favour, against 66% of Nationalists. And of DUP supporters, almost exactly as many oppose as support same-sex marriage.
People's views in Northern Ireland on same-sex marriage are conditioned more by age than necessarily religion these days. And, with a new generation coming through, the chances are that at some point same-sex marriage will be allowed in Northern Ireland.
As symbols of that new generation go, it's hard to look past the Sunflower Bar in central Belfast. At the height of the Troubles, it was the scene of a loyalist terror attack that left 3 people dead. Now it's a trendy bar that attracts a younger, more progressive crowd.
These issues are incredibly important to students.
These young people voice frustration with a political system that they feel isn't working for them.
People, for a variety of reasons, continue to vote on a sort of community affiliation basis rather than particular social issues. So it isn't effective to necessarily say to people, you should vote for this particular party because they will bring abortion reform or marriage equality. It simply doesn't work that way in Northern Ireland yet.
We know that the kind of society that we want to be a part of, and we know that there is overwhelming public support for some of these issues, so it's really disappointing that some of our leaders can't actually enact that change.
Olivia, you're the president of the National Union of Students, Union of Students Ireland, and you've met actually with a lot of the parties, and I think as recently as last week with the DUP to talk about some of these issues. What How did you come away from that?
I don't think that anything has come out of these talks that wasn't really to be expected, personally. I think, if anything, one of the things that's become crystal clear is that for any progress to be made in any sort of area in legislation in Northern Ireland, the petition of concern is most definitely in need of some desperate reform, and it is unclear as to whether or not any of the parties have a clear path forward for how that should be done.
Sinn Féin have made much in recent years of what they call the equality agenda, but their position on abortion has only recently softened, and they still don't officially support any unrestricted access. The nationalist SDLP, sister party of Labour, remains staunchly pro-life. In October, the Supreme Court heard an appeal from the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission against the country's abortion laws. That judgment is expected within the next month. The most recent Northern Ireland Life and Times survey suggests that abortion is another area in which politicians are out of step with public opinion. Ask people whether abortion should be given in the case of serious fetal abnormalities or in the case of rape or incest, and significant majorities are in favour. But ask if a woman should be able to have an abortion on demand, and the balance tips significantly. Fully 60% of people are opposed in this instance. Overall, Catholics are more likely than Protestants to oppose abortion.
For Sinn Féin, I think that what we see is a changing relationship of the citizens of Ireland with the Catholic Church. So over the past 20 years you see that, but Sinn Féin also having their position on the constitutional question, which is overwhelmingly supported. So they can have this liberal agenda that's there. For the SDLP, they're more conservative traditionally, but I do think that they're going to change as attitudes change on the island of Ireland, where they will not want to be caught on the wrong side of social change.
So what hope for change for those who seek it? Absent reform, delivering same-sex marriage will be an uphill struggle for a restored assembly at Stormont, abortion even more so, though of course the Supreme Court could force the issue. Should Stormont remain empty, direct rule ministers could legislate from London, but that will hardly be a priority for a government dealing with Brexit and in bed with the DUP. Short term then, in spite of the will of a majority of its people, it seems likely that Ulster's peculiar political system will continue to say no.